Thank you so much for coming on to Talk Beliefs. You got in touch with the show because you want to speak out about the controlling cult-like behavior you experienced during your several years as part of the Seventh Day Adventist Church, a Protestant church known for its observation of the Sabbath on Saturday rather than Sunday. And as a person with autism, you have a lot to say about how the SDA Church treats people with special needs. As our audience can see, you have decided to remain anonymous for this interview. Before we hear about your experiences with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, let's just hear a little bit about your background. What was life like before encountering the SDA Church?
I was originally taught the Christian faith at school of a mainstream denomination that is not Roman Catholic. I am autistic. I take things very literally, including strict rules, bad events, etc. I was bullied at school and had difficulties finding work. I struggle with anxiety and depression, making and keeping friends, and living independently. I did not really understand why the world is in so much chaos.
Several years ago, a friend invited you to come along to their local Seventh-day Adventist church. So what were those early days like as a new attendee?
It wasn't actually an invitation. Another religious group tried to convert me, but I got away from them. And after all that I had been through, it was as though I was hearing voices from God in my head that He has defined who I am. I am autistic. No one should take that from me and to turn and trust only in Him. I therefore started going to the Seventh Day Adventist Church with that friend. The congregation was welcoming and friendly with many handshakes. I was really happy, meeting them nearly every week, made many friends, I learned to pray, I attended Bible studies, health talks, lunches and prayer meetings. I joined their WhatsApp group and became a loved friend of their congregation.
As time went by and you became more and more involved with the SDA Church, you began to feel uncomfortable with many of the church's practices. And a lot of this stemmed from one of their prominent Bible courses. Isn't that right?
Nellie Smith, who is also an ex-Seventh Day Adventist, was interviewed on this channel. She has already covered most of the things that I was going to cover here. Therefore, I recommend that you watch her interview first. When I wanted to study the Bible, I was given a strange Bible course, which I later realised has nothing to do with what I really wanted to learn, which is the New Testament. It was also not the official 28 fundamental beliefs that are delivered by pastors. From what I remember, much of the course is about the Old Testament, especially Daniel and Revelation, mostly referring to distinct Seventh-day Adventist beliefs, especially the Sabbath. It hardly ever covered the Gospels and the Epistles, which I hardly knew about at the time. I found much of the course frightening, excessively comparative to the Roman Catholic Church and the things that are wrong with them. Whilst the course made many references to Bible verses, they were only to justify a belief. It did not make sense to study the Bible this way without knowing the actual story. After some disturbing truths were revealed, I felt frightened and unable to speak up, especially to others outside the church, including other denominations, in case it also frightened them. I was being prayed for about making the decision of what to do next. This is one of the ways I became trapped. As well as the Bible course, there was a lot of criticism, comparison, and shunning against other denominations, most especially Roman Catholic, as I absolutely hate this attitude. There was a lot of extremism and legalism, including suffering, end times, bad news, current affairs, persecution, frightening prophecies, etc. You must do this, you must do that, you must not eat this, you must not drink that. I was living in fear. For example, if I did not keep the Sabbath between Friday and Saturday sunset, not Sunday, I would go to hell.
You felt an increasing amount of pressure not only to conform to their way of doing things, but to stay in the church, even though you hadn't officially joined. So, talk about that.
When I was away for just 1 week, I had messages and calls that I had been missed, which made me feel pressured to come every week. Although it has always been my custom to observe the entire weekend, from Friday evening through to Sunday, as at least a rest from my job, I still debate the strictness of the Sabbath. Some members observe the Sabbath in a way which I find burdensome and extreme. I was feeling restricted of what I could do on the Sabbath, trying to put things that I was normally doing from Friday sunset off until Saturday sunset. When I started trying to change my diet, I switched from caffeinated tea to decaffeinated tea. It was said that decaffeinated tea has been through processes and therefore not good for you. Shortly after vegan sausage rolls were launched, it was also said that they have also been through processes and therefore also no good for you. What am I supposed to eat and drink to be a good Christian? Meat eating is a very big thing in my culture, especially pork. Because I live with others and have issues with my autism, I have to eat whatever I am given. Trying to get them off pork, white rice, white bread, dairy, and caffeine would only make the situation much worse. It was hard enough for them to accept that I had stopped drinking caffeinated tea. They were also concerned about me skipping meals because of the pressure to fast, which was a regular occurrence of the congregation. After I had been exposed to anti-vax opinions, I delayed getting my influenza vaccination as I considered giving them up when I usually go for them almost straight away. I have been taught, according to my culture, to save money, such as for a property, car, etc. When I was previously donating to charities, I had letters from them. Others in my culture were not happy about me giving money away. Although I now believe in giving generously, when I learned from the Bible course that not tithing is stealing and breaking God's law, as per Malachi, I felt forced to give. I was giving much more than I was comfortable with. I did not want my very hard-earned wages being spent on preaching extremism. I first had a letter in an envelope clearly showing a charity, causing me to become anxious due to fear of being persecuted for giving money away. I then had another appeal letter from another charity when the envelope was very obvious, causing significant distress due to fear of being persecuted for trying to obey God's law. I had to email both charities to remove my details from their system immediately. Baptisms are a very big thing of the Seventh Day Adventist Church. To be baptized, you must keep the Sabbath, not eat pork, return the full tithes, as well as fulfilling many other vows. When people said that they loved me to become a baptized member, when realistically I cannot, and prayed about it, this is how I became trapped. If I were to be baptized elsewhere without joining the Seventh Day Adventist Church, they would be very disappointed.
After several years within the Seventh Day Adventist Church, you finally found the courage to leave, but it wasn't as easy as simply walking out the door, was it?
I considered leaving the WhatsApp group for a while, but could not do so silently as WhatsApp used to notify others when someone left the group. I was very conscious of how others would react, especially after I received letters from charities. Everything simply got too much. I really needed a break from Adventism that I had the courage to leave the WhatsApp group and stop attending. Of course, this shocked the congregation and caused a lot of confusion. Despite telling them not to contact me, I still had many messages. I just wanted everyone to back off and leave me alone. When I returned after a break, I was reassured that I am a loved friend of the congregation, and not being part of them causes them to suffer. When I eventually reached out to mainstream denominations about the problems that I was having at the Seventh Day Adventist Church, they were concerned and I needed a lot of support and encouragement from them. Some worked with people with special needs. Eventually, I had the courage to break ties completely. When I had shared my experience with others, including a private and expensive Christian counselor who specializes in spiritual abuse, They were in agreement that it was spiritual and emotional abuse. Many were shocked, some were even tearful. I have now found my spiritual home in a mainstream denomination that is not Roman Catholic.
One of the main reasons that you eventually left is that you realized that this group was not very sympathetic to people with special needs. So, how do church members treat people with special needs, and how do they treat you?
To give such a frightening Bible course to someone who is autistic and struggles with anxiety and depression and takes things very literally, including going to hell for not keeping the Sabbath between Friday and Saturday sunset, not Sunday, is simply not right. To also use the Bible as a weapon to control the person, including their routine, diet, and finances, and also to frighten the person, is also simply not right. Although I was taught Christianity at school, I had forgotten nearly all of it afterwards. What made things much worse was not being taught the basics, i.e. the New Testament, before the Bible course, especially the Gospels and the Epistles. Because of this, I became very confused, frightened, fearful, and anxious. Some members did not understand my issues with my autism and culture. I tried to complain to the regional office about the experience I had at the Seventh Day Adventist Church, but they were very dismissive, despite acknowledging that I have a learning disability and my mental health has been affected. I hope that this is a strong message of how people with autism and learning disabilities can greatly be manipulated in such religious groups.
Well, I know it was a big step to come onto the show and speak out about your experiences, so I just want to thank you for finding that courage and bringing your story to Talk Beliefs.
Thank you very much, Mark.